So welcome to episode 166 of the Phil Swallow podcast. Happy New Year. This is all still very new. I put this live thinking, just adjust my mic a bit. I put this live thinking I often go to these and the host doesn't always start on time. So I've started before time. I may have caught some people out. It's telling me that the stream is excellent. I mean, when I say stream is excellent, it means the quality is high. And what I thought I would do today is go through the usual format for the show and hopefully get some interaction. If there's any way I can put this box somewhere else. This is all very, very strange to me. Oh, it looks like I can. It's Windows. You can resize Windows, Philip. Yes, so I'm going to see what I can do. Learn as I go, I guess. No, it's not. It's not happening. And I actually, when I was preparing for this the other day, it said, "What if no one watches my stream?" And yeah, none taken. If no one watches the stream, oh, I've got a viewer. Thank you for being a viewer. I'm not sure who that is, but welcome anyway to the Phil Swallow podcast. You're the first one. And I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm conscious that normally I have my notes, which I've got here. I've got my notes. This is a Happy New Year show, even though we're quite a way in already to 2024. And what I'm going to do is hope that we get some interaction. I want this to be an opportunity for you to kind of chat with me using the chat function. So please say hi. If you come on and say hello, that'd be brilliant. But I want it to be an opportunity that we can have some kind of two-way dialogue, albeit I've obviously got the microphone and the video, but use the chat, have a chat. And thank you very much for coming on stream. And as I say, please say hello if you join. So this format is likely to be the way forward. And one of the reasons for that is that it means in terms of workflow, there's a little bit of setting up shenanigans that I have to do to make it all happen. But it means for me, the work that I do afterwards is kind of already done. So it makes it a bit easier on my time and stuff like that. So that's going to be a kind of way forward. The content will largely be the same, plus, as I mentioned, the opportunity for people to interact. And it might take a while for that to happen. So if you're looking at this podcast post-live, then, feel free in the future to jump on and chat about anything, ask me anything. Well, within reason. So that's the first of my items on my little agenda here. The second thing that I was going to cover, and at any time I'm just going to break off and jump in to any chats that appear. So I can't see any that have come through. I think I've done everything right here. I've got a chat box which should see people coming in, and I've got an opportunity to message back, and it says there's a couple of views that have taken place at the moment. I'm not sure if that's one person coming and going, but anyway. So the format is going to be live, and then it'll just all be processed afterwards. So I'm all over the place already. Started the year by doing a talk for the Bourne Society over in Caterham. So brilliant group. They've run local history, I suppose, promotion through books, through talks, through walks, through loads of different events and involvement since the 1950s. And they've been brilliant to me starting off doing this. And I did my first talk in October last year. That went down very well, about the Croydon Waterworks history. And they asked me to do the first slot in the new year. So that was the 3rd of January. So I went over there and I spoke about the Gardner family and Hamsey Green Aerodrome. It wasn't an airport, it was an aerodrome, airfield. And it really went down very well. There were a few people that contacted me subsequently. One was unfortunately unable to attend, but I am planning to give the same talk in the second half of the year at Sanderstead Local History Forum. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm pretty certain it does get published on the Bourne Society publications. So that was really, really good. So that was a very nice start to the year. I did spend quite a bit of time between Christmas and New Year getting the talk together, getting it polished. But it went really down nicely. It went down really nicely. And I think it was last week or the weekend before last, which was still pretty early in the year, in the month in the year. And I had a message from somebody on WhatsApp. They are involved in a group called the South Croydon Probus, and they booked me to do a talk in April 2025, which is brilliant. Delighted to get asked to come along and talk to them. So really pleased that I was able to accommodate that. Obviously at this stage, diary's not too busy for that kind of distance away, but I was very pleased all the same. So that was great. I haven't worked out the subject yet because I'm probably going to cover a number of different subjects between now and then. Now, the other thing I did, again, this was the week before last, it's about Sanderstead Court. So I've got a kind of, I say connection, that's not really the right term, but ever since I first learned of Sanderstead Court, I felt it was a subject I wanted to understand a bit deeper. So I did some research when I did the Sanderstead Walk and Talk back in 2021, and I've stayed close to that ever since. And I was able to obtain some information, some images of Sanderstead Court, which was a really large kind of house, then hotel in the Sanderstead area. And I had in one of these photos, it was a view from, this doesn't mean a lot if you're international, but it was, you'll see it on my Facebook and my Instagram, a view from the Sanderstead Pond, looking back at the All Saints Church and Sanderstead Court, and then I kind of dissolved to what's there today, which is largely obscured by trees, and just a little bit of history. It was about a minute or so. It wasn't a YouTube short, but it was a short video that I thought, I'm just going to do it as a social media post, just nice and simple, nice and clean. So I did that and got some reasonable responses, so I'm grateful for that. And it was just almost a little kind of teaser thing, really, sort of promotional. So that is something I do plan to revisit. It's so near that I can visit up there, and kind of there's probably areas that I can wander around and look at a bit more closely. So that's something that's on the agenda. I filmed and released a video on South Croydon, and this was initially the idea of this video. And I guess this part of these podcasts is I give you some behind the scenes. That's how I've badged them. And we've got 3 views, but only 1 concurrent viewer. So 3 people have dived in. Live anyway. So, and I know you're all busy. So, so the South Croydon video, Graham, my friend, good friend and supporter of me and obviously what I do, he had done a lot of research into the area. He knows the area very well. And we agreed a route, and the idea of this route is it would kind of bridge the Central Croydon video that I made and released in November, that's doing very well. It would line up a bit with the one that we did in South Croydon a year or 2 ago. I think it was 2022. And it would touch on some of the stuff that I've done in the Old Town Croydon area. So it was almost, if you see it as a map, it would fill in a number of the blanks. And I worked in South Croydon back in the late 80s until about 1990. So I knew the area quite well, but there's still, even when you think you know an area, there's always more to see. What was the Blue Anchor pub? I'd never noticed in the many, many years that I've been there that there was an actual anchor in iron on the side of the chimney, on both chimneys on both sides of the building. So it's just weird that those things that only reveal themselves when... when you bother to spend some time, you can't do it in a moving car or bus or anything. You have to really be on foot to notice these things. But there was a load to see. So we plotted our way around. There was a question about whether an actor lived in a house in Southbridge Road. Someone posted on the site yesterday to give all the details of the actor, and that was brilliant. Leonard Gregory. So that was the actor, not the person. So I then went up to the Waldrons, or we went up to the Waldrons, which is a magnificent set of houses. They're kind of tucked away a bit between South Croydon and Old Town, sort of Duppers Hill area, but really grand, spectacular properties from the sort of, I think, mid-19th century. And a lot of them, I think, are apartments now, but yeah, really nice. So we had a nice walk around, and the edit on that, it took me about a day, maybe slightly less, which is quite good. I do get, for some of these videos now, the editing I find is a little bit smoother to do because there's certain things I can reuse from video to video. Plus you just get quicker, don't you, by doing these things regularly. So that went live, and that's had about, I think it's just tipped over 500 views in the first week. So that was really nice to see as well. And people do have a connection with these areas. I think on the channel now, quite a few people who pass comments are folk who lived in the areas that I cover many moons ago. And I don't know how they found the channel or find the channel. I'm delighted that people find the channel, but I don't quite know how it always happens. Maybe I should do some analysis, or maybe you can tell me in the chat how you found my channel. But I'm just glad that they do. So that's really good to see. So yeah, the South Croydon video done and dusted. I went on a walk last week. The weather's been much colder, and it was one day where they promised we were going to get some sunnier weather, and broadly it was. It got a little bit sort of hazy in the afternoon, but it was only a couple of hours this walk, and it was mainly in the Haliloo area and the Slines Oak area. I won't say any more than that. Nice country walk, and that is basically sitting on my hard drive at the moment, waiting for me to do some work on it. Because the other video I've been doing a lot of work on is the interview I did with Marguerite Rathbone, a 103-year-old lady, experienced from her early life in France, moving over, experiencing the Second World War over here, getting evacuated. And I'm giving the game away a bit, but there's only a few of you following this, so there'll still be a lot of people to learn it. But her uncle was in the French Resistance, and he was basically dobbed in, captured by the Gestapo, and was executed, a firing squad. So quite a horrific tale, really, but a real life tale of wartime. And Margaret's a wonderful lady. I've been delighted in the meetings I had with her in the filming and now doing the editing, so I feel I know her really well. So I'm waiting for some extra material there, just to kind of build the story a little bit more in terms of what I put on screen when the video is actually running. So secondary storyline, cutaways, that kind of thing. So that's going to happen. Depending on how things go, my plan with the channel is that I release some kind of content every week. So this podcast / video will be the release for this week, and then there'll probably be, it depends, it'll be jostling between the South Croydon video and Marguerite's video. Possibly the South Croydon one will come out in a few days' time, and then another one a week after that, and then probably another podcast towards the end of the month. So that was basically good progress from an editing perspective. And another thing that came about, so all of what I do is nothing without the research. It kind of goes without saying, but that's true. I need to do the research so that I can then tell the stories. And my research methods, I guess, are fairly modern in terms of what they could have been pre-internet. In those days, it would have been parish records and local authority archives, that kind of thing, and spending a lot of time going through old documents and blowing the dust off them. So I've done a visit to the Metropolitan Archives in London. Excuse me. And I do plan to go to the Surrey History Centre at some point over in Woking. And probably the National Archives at Kew. Another person has joined, or it says there's another person concurrently. So welcome to my podcast live. Thank you very much for joining live. Please don't be shy. Say hi in the chat and I'll say hi back. Of course, if you already have done that and I've not live chat messages are visible. I've got an option of live chat and top chat. I'm going to go with live. Yeah, just, do a little emoji or something, just say hello. Yes, so in the olden days it was going and digging out documents, and that was great, but it was probably quite time consuming. I still feel I need to do some of that, and I will, but I've been successful, I believe, in what I found out so far through online methods. Now, some of that does entail going to going to paid sites, subscription sites, which that's the way of things. But it's, as I say, it's been very successful. So the idea I had last week or the week before when I was chatting to some folks in the Bourne Society was that we perhaps should get together, just a few of us, and share how we go about our research, because there could be some very good kind of best practices, hints and tips, gaps, overlaps, all those things that I seem to recall from my commercial days. And that's likely to be something that we're going to take forward. I don't know where it's going to go. I like these things to be started off simply, with as fewer people as necessary, and not grow arms and legs too quickly. But I think there could be some benefit. If we can end up with a better quality to whatever we output and whatever stories we tell, and whether that goes into publication, because a lot of the speakers at things like the Croydon Natural History and Scientific Society and Bourne Society, they're published authors. I've not done that. It may happen one day, who knows? But I love giving the talks. I love standing up in front of people and talking passionately about the subjects that I've got a connection with, and obviously with these videos as well. So this now, it just says there's been some chat, but I can't see it. Chat rate 2. I don't know what that means. Here we go. Right, sorry, I apologise. I'm getting used to this, guys. So hi Chromium Photography, and hi Dave Hannigan. Delighted to have you guys on. So yeah, it's this software's okay, but obviously it's either I don't know how to work it yet, or there's some other learning need. But yes, I know we've spoken, and thank you very much for coming along and supporting the show. This slot, or any slot I pick, is never going to be ideal with everybody. It might suit some people if they're in different time zones, and so I'll just carry on publishing it around about this time, and we'll see where we go from there. It's unlikely to ever be a morning, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. I don't know why it put that chat, because it says the chat rate is now down. The live chat. This is good TV, isn't it? Anyway, so I've got some messages. I've seen the messages, and we've got some people watching. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So yes, research. It's absolutely essential, obviously, to be able to tell the stories. And I would say on a large number of projects that I've done, when I've released the outputs, typically videos, sometimes talks, invariably someone will come back with more information to help tell either a better part of the story. If I get feedback on a video that I can then use in a talk, that's good. They get the benefit, vice versa. I put some feelers out for something to do with the Gardner family story a few days before I gave the talk, and I came back, or I was checking through junk mail, typically catches a lot of this stuff. Came back, went to my junk mail folder, and there was a response from a guy with some really rich information, which I will add into the Gardner story for next time around. So these things, they're living to an extent. And as with the South Croydon video that I did last week, where I wanted to find out the actor's name, we were all for kind of digging around and, standing in the street, Googling who could have lived there. And I said to Graham, no, I'll put it on the video. I'll ask a question in the video, and sure enough, we got a response. Same thing happened a long time ago. We did the Kenley Aerodrome video when I did the walk and talk with Linda and Tony and Neil. And that was great fun to do. And it was in my earlier days of doing these videos. But we had a question about whether they put netting over the top of the blast pens which cover the aircraft. And someone got in touch, I think it was last year, and they said, have a look at this picture from, and I forget the name, Wealdon Aerodrome, RAF Wealdon. And they said, there's a picture on their website, and it suggests that there was a netting arrangement over these blast pens. Sure enough, checked it out, and I think Linda may have gone up there or maybe planning to go up there. So it's crowdsourcing the answer to the question, really. You could post something like this on, I don't use Twitter anymore, but on a social media site, and maybe you might get lucky, someone might have an answer. But with this, it's been brilliant that so often I've put something out there and I've asked a question, or the whole framing of the video might be it's a mystery and, do you know the answer to the question? So it's great that I can rely on you guys to give me the information that I'm after. So I really do appreciate that. Checks agenda. I'm gonna do another little hint. So this is again just for your benefit, for something that I'm doing some research on at the moment. I don't know at this stage how I'm going to share this story. I want it to be a video. It started off investigating a house that was a very large house. It's not there anymore. It's been pulled down, replaced by a different building. But it was called Mount Wood, and it was in this sort of between Selsdon and Cirencester, nearer Selsdon. And I found out some interesting information about one of the owners of that house. And only 2-3 days ago, I found out some information that the son of the family, there was a son and daughter, he was actually a Hollywood film producer. And there's a kind of do I, don't I situation with these things, because I don't know what the family relationship was like. It might have been brilliant and perfect. It might have been less so. I've got to decide how I share that. Now, my thinking at the moment is, if I get a slot in a local talk, I can put the information that I've found together and I can put it out to the audience that are assembled. In some ways, they'll be my sort of test audience. I won't say guinea pigs, but you know what I mean. A sample audience where I can test a story. It's a bit like comedians do tryout nights and things sometimes. And the idea would be to try and gauge whether A, they think it's a good story, and B, whether they think it's worth sharing to a wider audience. When I first stumbled across it, I thought, yeah, this is a big story. So my leaning is to make sure I can do something about it. So we shall see. Right, comment from Chromium Photography. The Walningham Garden Village Hospital wasn't really for convalescing in World War One. Ah, okay. Right, well, there you go. You live and learn. You live and learn. I was only up there the other day as part of my walk. I know that there was a hospital arrangement in Addington Palace, which is not far from here. Seen some old postcards where they've actually got the sort of hospital like tents outside the main palace building. So I'm always happy to live and learn with all this stuff. So useful to know. Thank you very much for that, sir. So yeah, that's really where we're at. It's sometimes there's information that comes to light where, do I, don't I? And I've definitely got one of those with this. I think it's a very strong runner. And hopefully, now you've clarified that, it was for treatment of a certain transmitted disease. There you go. Brilliant. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, yes, so this really was the main kind of, these were the main things I wanted to cover today. Oh, one thing I didn't mention last time, I think, Crystal Palace actually got a home win. So for those of us that are long-suffering Crystal Palace fans, that was a good thing to see. So excuse me, just I'll have a slurp. Oh, thank you. Yes, so this is where I am. If you've got anything else to throw at me, fire away. I see sometimes people do these streams, gaming streams and things like that, where there's all sorts of interaction going on. I don't think I'm ever going to do any live gaming. I wouldn't know where to start. But with the fact that we can do this stuff nowadays is quite incredible, really. I can't quite get my head around the concept of you're playing a computer game and you're just sharing it and people are subscribing to watch it. But it happens, folks. It does happen. So I'm going to say, any other takers, Any other questions? Any areas you would like me to cover? Someone the other day said, I think it was 2 or 3 different areas of Croydon. Have I done... No, well, Addiscombe was mentioned. I do have plans to go to Addiscombe. Again, it's sort of moving from Croydon, covering the east of Croydon, which I've not really done. There's a specific story I want to cover about Croydon that I've kind of done the research on. It's good to go. Probably not going to find out much more about that one. But he mentioned Paulson's Road, and he mentioned... might have been a pub. Whitehorse area, I think. So, yeah, it's... during World War II. Okay, right. Canadian camp on the Caterham bypass. Do you mean Marden Lodge on the Caterham bypass? And I will just type. Did that go out there? Yeah, it did. Oh, look, Phil Swallow, Marden Lodge. Which is where my good friend's mum met his dad. She was a Caterham girl. He was in the Canadian Army, and they met and got married and had him and another one, I think, possibly 2. So, Canadians supported us incredibly in the Second World War. They were based in many locations in the area. This particular road where I'm talking to you from now didn't exist until the 1950s, but adjoining roads nearby were built in the 1930s. Brand new houses were put up. The first occupants of those were the Canadian Army. They kind of, it was a bit of a takeover. Not sure, get back to me. Brilliant. Okay, that's good. I believe it was. So Marden Lodge now is Woldingham School. So the nice thing is you can go onto Woldingham School's website and you get a kind of really good view of the building. Fantastic style building. Wonderful architecture. I understand there are tunnels underneath it. And I think possibly the history teacher for that school may have done a video once about it, or certainly did a publication, because I found it when I was doing some research. So it's good that there's the opportunity to find out information about it, that it's a current building. It's not been flattened like Mount Wood and Sarnstead Court. But yes, it's great that we've still got these buildings, that they are with us, so to speak. They are living. And yes, I've looked up before to try and find information about the regiments that were based here. And that was from another friend of mine that's doing he's doing a book, basically. I've mentioned it in the past. So the Canadians were heavily, had a heavy presence in the area, supported us brilliantly, and we will forever be in their debt, I believe, for that. So, yeah, so the other thing I need to do, I really should probably do it this year, is Caterham Valley. So I visited Caterham on the Hill last summer and did a walk and talk, and it was based around a guide that had been put together by the Bourne Society. Had some nice comments on that. And again, I learnt more. I never really spent any time around Caterham Barracks and the area that was St Lawrence's Hospital, so that was good to find out about those. But yes, it's the valley itself has changed. It's changing. There's been some quite substantial building work there in recent times, and people who would have known Caterham Valley from before will probably be quite surprised at what they see now. So I think I will make it my task, my plan, to go along there at some point this year, probably in the nicer weather. There are, I think, a couple of Bourne publications about the shops in Caterham Valley, and if I can find either a way of juggling these publications whilst walking and talking, I will, or I might bring someone else along so that they can do that bit, and then I can kind of do the walking and talking. So yeah, Caterham Valley is definitely on my list, because I feel I've branched out from, I'm still finding stuff, if you like, Wallingham, Chelsham, Hamsey Green, Sarnstead, probably will revisit Sarnstead again. Whiteleaf done, Kenley a bit, but not really, mainly Kenley Aerodrome. There's a couple of stories to tell actually in Kenley on the Godstone Road side, so I'll probably look into that. It's almost like I'm kind of starting where I am and working out. So, right, Dave, let's have a look. So I'd find a video on local schools very interesting. Okay. You're at Gresham. which I'm sure has a rich history, and John Ruskin on the original site with a windmill. Good. That's good. And I see one thing I'd like about that, Dave, and in the South Croydon video we saw this, is the building styles of some of these schools are quite incredible. Not far from here we got Royal Russell, which was a really, really impressive building. There's some photos of Queen Elizabeth II visiting there and the like. But the actual buildings, some of these buildings had other purposes back in the day. So yeah, a school tour would be a good one to do. Maybe sort of during a holiday period or something like that, get round there, but just to plot around. I know, I'm sure the schools that my mum went to when she was a child are still around, and probably my dad, my late father. So yeah, I think I love the architecture of the older schools, and still, when you go to, I don't know, places like Clapham and Wimbledon and Putney and those areas, you get there's a certain style of these really big, tall, grand structures. So yeah, I will have a look into that for you, Dave. So schools would be good, 2 of the local schools. Gresham Canteen is in the original building, but know little about it. I touched, I think, on Gresham when I did the Sanderstead Walk and Talk video. So that was, April 2021. So that's worth revisiting every time. It's so close to me. It's really not a problem to just get along there. I suppose one thing I look to try and do with these is to find a different angle, if at all possible. There's the standard information, which we can all find, but I try and dig a bit deeper. Can I find something else, another option, another angle? So, yeah, I will look into Gresham. I had some friends that went to Gresham, but I'd never been there myself. It wasn't. We were the Hamsey Green mob down the road, a different gang, quite literally sometimes. So yeah, this is good. I'm really enjoying this, guys, to provide this information and give me some steers, because I'm never short of what to do. I've always got different streams at different stages of research, so it's just I'm my own bottleneck sometimes for actually getting these things off the ground. Some of the videos, so the one I when I showed Marguerite's interview, it's more a video, it's more interview style, very different to what I do normally, and the edit is more complex, and I hope that obviously the end result will reflect that. So just I try and provide some variety, being the spice of life, of course. So yeah, a school tour. And I remember speaking to a lady who used to live in Sanderstead. She was talking about the old rectory. So we know Rectory Court in Sanderstead. And on the corner there, where the very nice flats are, which actually have got a reasonable amount of age to them now. I think they were constructed in the 50s, late 50s. But the original rectory there was quite an impressive building. And unfortunately now, the large building that was on the other side of the roundabout, sort of opposite. So opposite the rectory and opposite All Saints, that seems to be completely flattened now. There's some hoardings up there and some sort of construction work going on, although they seem to be taking their time about it. So yeah, it's but I think this is going to be for me an advantage, because I will be able to see what you guys are interested in. And hello, I will wave back. There we go. Let's do a little wave back. If I can find the right symbol. There we go. I am using my usual setup with this microphone that I use for my podcast, but it's been a learning experience. One of the things I wanted to have on this particular setup today was to have a little kind of banner along the bottom of the screen that shows that this was episode number 166, which is what I had when I was doing the podcast the other way. And I thought I had it all set up, and then it didn't want to behave today, so when I got going. So, but this isn't a perfect science. This isn't me providing the latest financial figures for a PLC. This is me doing my show, podcast, interacting with you guys, because you are the ones that help me to grow the channel and to tell my stories. And So I hope that between us we start going in the directions that you'd like to see as well. As I say, many of the people that I interact with are former local residents. I'm playing around with this chat window and it's gone awry. One of the notes to myself after this is to go back on YouTube for OBS, which is the software I've been using, and make sure I can get slicker at it. So, but so I think we've had about half an hour-ish, maybe a little bit more, because I actually went live early, bucking the trend of anyone else that normally does these type of things. Getting this feedback is really great. Thank you, these suggestions. So yeah, look at schools, look at the garden village history and do a revisit. I feel that I'm going to need to go back to Woldingham again. There is certainly a country walk that I can do. So I'm looking to do these monthly walks where the focus is on the countryside and a bit of history. I found some water related things recently, and that's something that interests me, the whole water infrastructure. Don't ask me why, don't ask me how it came about. Well, it did come about from around the corner where I live, Addington. But yeah, so I find reasons, something just piques my interest, and I find a reason to go out there with the camera and film it. So so it's no problems, mate, that you missed the start. Yeah, just you can get the replay when it's up. So yeah, I think that worked okay last time, and hope it's going to work again this time. I'm not doing any recording of this locally. Basically, this is software that I use that connects. It does a handshake with YouTube Studio. So I'm hoping you can all still see and hear me. I do record a separate audio-only version because it's the highest quality to then put out on the audio podcast, which I do have some regular listeners for. Okay. So thanks, Dave. So the email alert you received saying you were live, saying that I was live, hit your inbox 1 minute before I did. Might be better to get the alert sent out a bit earlier if YouTube permits. I will look into that. Yes, it's not it. What I'd really like to see is if there is a countdown option. Now, it could be that with this software, I believe I can actually do everything. I've been doing this partly in YouTube. There's a thing called YouTube Studio, which you have when you've got a YouTube account, and that's how you do various things. So there's an element that I did in YouTube, and when I looked at a video for OBS, it said, you can do everything in OBS. So that is my commitment, my homework for between now and the next episode is to pick up again on anything that I may have missed, and we'll look at that alert option, because I think, yes, that's another just a recommendation that you have your notifications on. So thanks for that, Dave. But yeah, just to say in 1 minute, I think you'd ideally want half an hour beforehand and then 1 minute, and I will look into that. Bet your life there'll be an option, but you have to pay for it or something. I don't know. We'll get there. I would love to get to a stage where these are always going to be held on the, second and fourth or whatever Tuesdays of the month, but it's not always that easy because of things that I have regular things in the diary and just life, life the way it happens sometimes. So I will do my best to keep a rough kind of every 2 a month kind of thing. Good. Okay. Well, I'm going to say thank you very much for supporting this episode and the show and the channel. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And, my payback to you and saying thanks is to do my best to bring your information onto my list. There is a countdown option, seeing a load of other channels. That's when a new video is about to go live. Some give you a day's notice. Yeah, when you publish on YouTube, there is an option called a premiere. So don't think I've done that yet. But anyway, it's yes, I will look into that notifications. I'm sure I get them, but it might be that. So I've had somewhere, don't laugh, Lakeland, who I've got one of these My Lakeland accounts for. They sometimes have a chef doing certain techniques, baking or knife techniques, whatever, and they do reminders, but it's done from them. And it's typically email. So I'd have to think about that. I mean, the other thing I can possibly do, and I will give some thought to this, and maybe you can tell me if you think this would be a good idea, but I can have a newsletter set up on my website. So if you go to philswallow.com, it's as simple as that, www.philswallow.com, and bookmark the website. I think what I might do is see about a newsletter option, and then perhaps that could be a way where I just ping out some reminders. Don't know, just an option. It's difficult to get what's the best method for everyone, because some people like a notification, some like an email. You can obviously get these calendar downloads. So I'll explore that. That might end up being a recurring theme until we end up for something that works for everyone or for the majority. So, see how that goes. But I'm going to sign off now. Thank you very much for your time and for interacting on the show. It's been exactly what I wanted, and I really do appreciate it. Look after yourselves. And as I say in my videos, see you in the next one.